today for the Sacramento region. My name is Angelique Ashby. I have the great honor of being a senator and one of the many people who represent Sacramento here in this distinguished building behind me. I am incredibly proud of this community, the cities, the counties, everyone in this region, and how hard the people behind me and the people who couldn't join us today work every day on behalf of the people of our region. I introduced a bill you might have heard about 3 weeks ago. I meant to look at exactly what that date was, but I think it's been about 3 weeks. And I'm going to say this, it worked, because here we all are standing in one space talking about the most important issue that's facing us. Now don't get me wrong, these guys are all talking about that issue all the time. But my goal was to bring us together, to talk about it together. Sacramento, and really all of California, is facing an absolute epidemic in homelessness and a crisis in affordable housing. And every day when they go to work, when I come to work, we hear about this issue. It's the number one thing we hear about from constituents at town hall forums, when we do surveys. You cannot talk about the health and well-being of your community without hearing about how we have not yet addressed this issue to the satisfaction of ourselves or to our community. It is truly the crisis that faces us right now. For many, many years, at least 20, Sacramento has tried to figure out how to create a formal structure to work together on this issue. And there have been many informal attempts, some of which have benefited us greatly. And individually, all of the organizations with me today are doing incredible work. But I have no doubt that in order to achieve real and lasting results on behalf of our region, that we must formalize an effort to work together. And that is why I introduced a very aggressive bill, SB 802, that would force everyone behind me to share their money and to work together on housing and homelessness. Obviously, that got their attention, which I'm grateful for. Let me be really clear on one thing. Nobody said, hey, no, we don't want to do that. Nobody said, hey, no, we don't want to work together and we're not willing to share resources. No one said that. What they did say is, whoa, 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 whoa. We want to be part of the conversation about how that happens. And that's fair. That is a fair thing to ask for. For 20 years, though, we haven't been able to work out those details. So here's what's going to happen today. I have talked to the assembly member who is the chairperson for housing. His name is Matt Caity, a wonderful human out of San Francisco, very supportive of the bill. I have asked him to put my bill on a 2-year hold. What that means for you is it sits on a shelf until January. And then in January, if I want him to put it back on an agenda and take the vote that would have happened today, I can make that decision then. It gives us, between now and January, to make meaningful progress on this issue. The thing that convinced me to take this opportunity to bring in the community and not just force upon them this one particular strategy is, first of all, I don't think I'm the expert on exactly all the details that need to be in that structure or frame. But what I am tired of is waiting for somebody to figure it out. And I think they are too. I think we all are tired of waiting. And I know this, the million constituents that I represent are definitely tired of waiting for us to figure out the details. Nothing sharpens the mind like a deadline. So here's the takeaway. We have a deadline, and the deadline is January. Let me be abundantly clear. I could have moved this through committee today. 2 committees. And I appreciate very much the I recommendations and support of both chairs of those committees, and the very courageous assembly members who are not from this region, but were willing to support this bill and see if Sacramento could take the lead on how to aggressively address housing and homelessness for California. In fact, we've already heard from other cities who have asked us if they could replicate this effort. So a high bar, but I know that we can achieve it together. Two really important meetings happened this week that made me incredibly proud. One was with the city managers of Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova, Folsom, and Elk Grove. I believe all four of them are standing behind me right now. First of all, you have some incredible talent leading your region. Those four men stayed up until the late hours of the night with me, and I cannot begin to tell you how much intellect they brought to this dialogue. The text I sent them yesterday was two-part. One, I promise to keep my word if I bring this bill back in January. If that's necessary, I will keep my word to them on the deal points that we negotiated that night. Two, I asked them to lean into this process the same way that they were willing to lean in with me, because I am certain that their involvement and engagement will move this dialogue forward in the way it needs to move forward. And I thank them tremendously. The second conversation happened yesterday in my office, and it included Supervisor Pat Hume, Supervisor Rich Desmond, and Councilwoman Caity Maple and myself. Some of you have already heard portions of how that meeting went. It was passionate. I know you know what that's code for. Heated, but with friends and people who trust each other. And what I really saw was a particular look in Pat Hume's eyes that I recognized. Councilwoman Maple described for him just one incident that she was very frustrated with, something that had happened at a shelter. And he was literally outraged from the core of his humanity, outraged that he A, didn't already know about it, and B, couldn't fix it in that moment. And what I saw on his face was a partner and a human absolutely determined to move this city and this county and this region in the right direction. And I owe him the opportunity, and all of them the opportunity, to act on that passion. And so that is why we are here today. I thank them very much for coming to talk to me. I thank them for their willingness to move forward. And as Pat will probably tell you, we made a very sophisticated pinky promise. Here are the parameters of that pinky promise from my vantage point. We have an aggressive timeline, that's for sure, because we have a bill hanging over our heads in January that we know we can bring back with an I recommendation from the two chairs that would see it. Those of you who understand the legislature know how that works. Second of all, that whatever we move forward will have a formal government structure. I think we can acknowledge that the informality has been problematic to accountability over the last several years. So there must be something formal. It doesn't have to be a JPA, but it has to be something that involves public participation, oversight, and real accountability, and real, true opportunity to lead in this space. Authority. Thirdly, it has to be resourced, not volunteer work. We got to move money into the equation. But we can work about how that money is moved, what money it is. Is it mental health money? Is it housing money? Is it a combination of the both? Is it HAP funds? Is it state funding? Is it something from each of us? That can be worked out, but there need to be resources. It must address both housing and homelessness. This is the direction the state is going. The state recently announced a new initiative to create an entirely new division of housing and homelessness. And I want Sacramento to stand up the first matching agency, because I think it will put us in the front of the line for funding and resources out of the state. Whatever we do must address SHRA and Sacramento Steps Forward. It must include them, because those entities do so much work in this region. They're the boots on the ground, they're our voucher system, they're running all of our public housing, and it is incredibly important that whatever we do includes and involves them. Otherwise, we're just creating more silos, which we don't want. And lastly, it must include the smaller cities and a regional approach. This cannot be left to just Sacramento alone, not the county and not the city. It's a problem much bigger than any one of those entities. And so my ask today is that you all help me by asking questions regularly and say, where are we in that dialogue? Let's force updates. Let's force conversation. The first step will be that I will convene a regional meeting. And then we will report back from that regional meeting how we're going to proceed from there to get through the details. And today with me, there are many people who I will introduce at the end because I want to make sure they all are included on the list. And you're going to hear from a couple of speakers, and then I'll come back up and thank all the folks by name who are here with me. Next up, and we'll take questions at the end. Next up will be Supervisor Pat Hume.
Thank you, Senator. Long time no see. It seems like just yesterday we were over in county chambers asking for today to happen, and that was yesterday. I thought that the crowd that was here for this, so I'm bummed to see them leave. But anyway, well, the skies are clearing, and it appears that Hurricane Angelique is dissipating. The meteorologists will stay diligent because she is still a Category 4 force to be reckoned with. But at this time, on this issue, at this moment, it seems that the eye of the storm is moving on. Yesterday, Supervisor Desmond, myself, we sat with Councilmember Caity Maple and the Senator in the Senator's office for over an hour, probably closer to an hour and a half, talking passionately about her proposal and the state of efforts to address homelessness in our region. And I will say that is not code. More than a few coins were dropped in the swear jar during that conversation. It was at times heated, but always respectful deliberation. And we all agreed that we can do better than our current response. Regardless of the how, legislatively, organically, politically, humanistically, we can do better. And at the end of it, through subsequent communication, we did arrive at that pinky swear resolution that she mentioned. And so first, I apologize. I've heard a lot of terms and phrases about the business that happens in the building behind me. So, triple referral, rolling the chair, laying off. I don't know what any of these things mean, by the way. But I don't know if I'm saying this right, but the Senator agreed that she would pull her bill or table it or not be present to present it so that it becomes a 2-year bill, whatever. If we agreed that we would accelerate our current efforts and build on the momentum of the moment to work collaboratively to create a new framework that addresses the dysfunction and discord that exists between the local agencies, Sacramento Steps Forward, and Sacramento Housing Redevelopment Agency, and results in a new structure that provides regional oversight in the provision of housing and wraparound service for the unhoused and those we must help to live a more stable life. So the Senator gave us what many of us asked for yesterday, which is the space to work locally in a ground-up effort to come together and do better. So I can't predict what exactly will come out of it. I don't know what the final framework will be. Senator Ashby put forward an idea in her bill, and now we have to set out earnestly to vet that idea and others and see what we can come up with to address this program, this issue and these individuals in a meaningful way. And so as we set out in earnest to deliberately craft our buy-in, whatever that might be, the worst case scenario, and it is the worst case for so many reasons, is that we end up right back here next year ready to do what we were planning on doing today. But I am confident that we do not need to march in there today at odds. I take her at her word that she will do what she needs to make that happen in the building, and we can take down our sabers, put them away, take off our gloves, and get down to work. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure, I believe I'm introducing my colleague, Supervisor Richard.
Thank you, Supervisor Hume, and he does know what those terms mean. Don't let him fool you for a minute. But first I want to start thanking Senator Ashby. Of course, you certainly did get our attention. You could have done that by convening a meeting, by the way, instead of being compelled. But thank you. And I also want to thank, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our entire legislative delegation in Sacramento. We are very, very fortunate to have leadership like Senator Ashby, Senator Nealo, Assemblymember Hoover and Krill, who are meeting today, as well as Assemblymember Wen. And I want to thank all of them for their involvement and leadership in this important topic. And yet, the meeting yesterday was difficult at times. Senator Ashby is, of course, very convincing. But I think we highlighted a few things that were our concerns, and I appreciate you listening to us, hearing us, and actually listening to us. And we ultimately don't know what the final structure will be of this, but we have all said, and I know Supervisor Rodriguez is behind me as well, we have all said since the day this 802 was introduced that we really ask for more time, to give us some time to keep pursuing some of the things we've been pursuing on a time frame that is way too slow, completely understand. But let this be, and like Supervisor Hume said, an organic approach that comes from the bottom up. Let us come together as leaders of the municipalities and the county in Sacramento County and determine what is best in terms of the type of structure, the type of involvement, the type of resources that are committed, as long as those commitments are there. And I am certainly committed to that. I will join you gladly as part of that endeavor and join my colleagues behind me here. And so it is my pleasure now to introduce someone who's definitely a steadfast leader in addressing our homelessness crisis, has more compassion than probably anybody I know, and more passion about this topic. And that is Councilmember Caity Maple. Where are you? Behind me.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Caity Maple, and I'm on the Sacramento City Council. I'm really glad to be here today because this is an issue that myself and my colleagues behind me have been working on for many, many years now at this point. So just really grateful that we're here at this point. I think today marks an important step forward in our region. And we've had, it's been mentioned, some thoughtful conversations, some tough conversations. But we finally reached an agreement on how we can move forward together from a ground-up approach, and I think that that is the best way to do this. I think having buy-in from everyone around the region and building something together will no doubt create a better product for us, no matter how we do it. I'm really glad at Senator Ashby's leadership because no doubt this sparked a conversation that's long been overdue. And that is, how do we coordinate our efforts on housing and homelessness? And while we've made the decision, and senators made the decision to table the bill for now, I know that we're not walking away from the urgent need for change on these issues. Instead, that we're working to move forward together. So over the coming months, the county and our cities will work in earnest, collaboratively to design a new governance structure that addresses housing and homelessness in a more coordinated, accountable, and effective way. One that we can all support, I hope, and one that reflects the scale of the crisis that we face. Because our fragmented systems do not serve anyone. Not our cities, not our service providers, who I see here in the crowd, and most importantly, not the people experiencing homelessness who are counting on us to get this right. I want to thank Senator Ashby for her leadership and for her vision. I want to thank Supervisors Hume and Desmond for engaging in a meaningful, productive dialogue. And I really want to thank everyone who has supported SB 802 to date, including our advocates that are behind us, like House Sacramento, California YIMBY, and many of the community-based organizations that lend their voice to this. Also our partners in labor, who I really appreciate working in good faith with us and always centering workers. I think that's a very important part of this conversation. So we have a lot of work ahead, but for the first time in a long time, we will finally be sitting at the same table, ready to build something better together. And if we stay at that table, if we keep the voices of those most impacted at the center of every decision that we make, I know that we can build a system that gives people dignity and hope and helps them off the streets and into the housing and services that they desperately need. And that's the future our region deserves, and that work begins now, together. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to do the most ill-advised thing that anyone can ever ask you to do, which is try to name the people behind me as best as I can from what I assume is here and what I believe to be here. So if I miss one, just holler out at me. The reason this part is really important, though, isn't just to acknowledge them, but it is to tell you that the real beauty of this, it's a fairly low-risk proposition for me to give them 6 months because the bill still sits viable. It's available for me to bring back. That makes this a little lower risk, but it also creates an urgency on our timeline. Ultimately, though, no matter what we put in place, whether it's through legislation that they don't all agree upon, or through an agreement that everybody gets to, it will only be successful if these people behind me implement it and really move forward on the promises that they're going to make to the people of Sacramento and the greater region. And I have every confidence that they will. First of all, you've already heard from Supervisor Pat Hume and Supervisor Rich Desmond. These are not in the right order, by the way, but they're in the order that I figured out that they were here. You heard from Councilwoman Caity Maple, and Assemblymember Josh Hoover is here today. Very happy to have him. Assemblywoman Maggie Krell is here. Mayor Sarah Aquino from Folsom is here. Board of Supervisor Rosario Rodriguez is here. California Yimby is here. Former SHRA Commission Chair Emmanuel Manafort is here. Former Chief of Staff to Mayor Johnson Daniel Conway is here. Former Chief of Staff to both Mayor Johnson and Mayor Steinberg Crystal Strait is here. Councilwoman Lisa Kaplan is here from the City of Sacramento. Howard Chan is here from the City of Sacramento. Chief Costamonte from the City of Sacramento is here. Assemblymember Heath Flora is not here, but is the co-author of the bill and the minority leader in the Assembly, and I want to thank him for his help and assistance. Senator Roger Nilo could not be here, wanted me to tell you that because Judiciary went past 10:30 last night, he would not be here this morning, but that he is eager to work on the next step of this coalition and is grateful to everyone involved. Councilmember Darren Soon from Elk Grove is here. Councilwoman Barbara Leary from Folsom is here. Councilwoman Linda Budge from Rancho Cordova is here. House Sacramento is here. Councilwoman Portia Middleton from Citrus Heights is here. Mayor Dr. Jana Karpinski from Citrus Heights is here. Council member and coach Rick Jennings from Sacramento is here. And Tim Schaefer, council member from Citrus Heights, is here. Did I miss anything? Elsie Nelson from Citrus Heights. Thank you. Good job. Thanks, everyone. And I quick shout out to these four amazing humans. The city managers of Citrus Heights, Ash Feeney. The city manager of Folsom, Brian Whitmire. The city manager of Elk Grove, Jason Bierman. And the city manager of Rancho Cordova, Micah Runner, who I believe sent David Kwong here today as well. Those individuals have also been really meaningful in this process. These individuals are incredibly important. Now we'll get to work. Thank you all for being here. We'll take questions. Pat, you want to come up here? All right. Any questions? Yes. I spoke to you about a half an hour before Pat Hume walked into my office. You know, several people up here have been asking for this to be a 2-year bill for a while. And I think it's really important to know, if I would have agreed to a 2-year bill earlier, it wouldn't have applied enough pressure to my colleagues in this building for me to have the votes in committee this morning. And if you're going to run a play, you better make sure that you can back it up. As I stand here right now, I feel very confident that I could walk away from this podium, change my mind, walk in that building, and have 7 votes in 2 committees today. I know that I can do that. I'm choosing not to. But in order for you to make sure that I have that insurance in my pocket, I got to make sure I play that all the way up to the line. And I will tell you, I was ready to go to committee this morning. Very ready. And any of you who have worked with me at all over the last few years know I don't bluff. It's not really my strategy in life. But the look in Pat Hume's eyes when Councilwoman Maple explained to him some things that were happening in the community at some of the navigation centers convinced me that we needed just a little bit more time, and that I believe the spirit is there. And so I want to give them that time. Let me just also say, from a strategic standpoint, as the senator for the region, and I love the council members, I do. And I have some great ones here. My own councilwoman, Lisa Kaplan, is here. And I have a tremendous regard for the local elected. My responsibility is very broad. and inclusive of really all of these cities except for Folsom. I touch in all of them. And so I want to make sure that when I walk out into a town hall forum, that I can say to the constituents, I've done everything in my power to address the top issue that you have asked me to address. I also need to make sure that any action I would take now strengthens the bill. This action strengthens the bill. Because if I do have to bring it back in January, I can say, for 6 months, we worked on this on top of the 20 years that we already worked on it, and we weren't able to come to an agreement. I don't believe that's going to happen. I believe we are going to come to an agreement. First of all, the city managers of the 4 small cities gave us an amazing start. Second of all, I believe that the county and the city of Sacramento have been working on some conversations for the last year or so that can fold into this as well. I believe the will is there. I'm not sure the will was there before, but I saw it yesterday, about an hour after I talked to you. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Today you stated that in those organizations like Sacramento County Board, you may not be a government board, a single government board of the KPA, but
That's not what I said. In fact, I said exactly that it must have a formal government board. Whatever entity this is, must have a formal government board. That is one of the few parameters that we did agree upon. And it also must include SHRA and Sacramento Steps Forward. There is no version of this that moves forward that allows additional silos. They have to come together, and it must include the small cities. I'm not backing off of those points. Anybody else? Great. We appreciate you so much. Time for us to get to work.